What's up, guys? Talresin here with another video for Everybody's Golf Hotshots. This is going to be my tier list video, and in this video, I want to rank all the characters in the game based on how strong they are relative to the rest of the cast. As someone who loves competitive games of all different types, I'm a big tier list guy, so it's cool. I think that this is the first Hotshots that has really that it makes sense to have a tier list for. In Everybody's Golf 2017, everybody was just on a custom character, so there was no differentiation at all. And in World Invitational, the meta at the top level of play was basically two characters. Cat and Max were going to be in, 99.9% of your games in terms of who was making up the field. So it didn't really make any sense to have a tier list for those games. This game's interesting in the sense that each character, in a lot of ways, is very equal because they all have the same stats with the food mechanic, right? We can boost any one of these characters to max stats and then put whatever gear on that we want to further modify those. So what this basically means is we're selecting for three variables here when we're choosing a character. We're choosing based on their ball flight characteristics, their passive, and their special mode. Now, let me break down how each one of those factors into my decision here and how much I'm weighting each one of those things. Unfortunately, right now, fade and draw characters are at a significant disadvantage. For whatever reason, in this game compared to every other Hotshots game, the dispersion on fade and draw characters is basically like twice as bad as straight characters. So if you miss it with a straight character, it barely goes offline when you have max stats and you have, a ton of control. And when you miss it with a fade or draw character, it is off the planet. If even if you're not, this is aside from the side spin and everything like that. This is just not hitting the PI on a fade and draw character can sometimes be extremely penal. So that is unfortunately a big factor, and fade and draw characters really kind of lose out in this game because of it. So that just leaves the characters passive and their special mode. Now, obviously, if you've been playing this game at all, you know that the special modes are very powerful and very game breaking. So, in terms of how that pie is divvied up, the special modes make up way more of that. Passive can be important. Some passives are worse than others, some are more impactful than others. But ultimately, out of those three categories, the passive is the least of those three considerations. Mainly, I'm picking on based on the special mode, and then I'm making sure that I'm playing a straight character so that I'm not forced to that this massive dispersion penalty that the fade and drawing characters have. I also just want to preface this video by saying the most important thing is that you enjoy the game and just play whoever you want. At the end of the day, just play whoever you want. They all have the same stats. Yes, the special modes are going to change things up and what their passives are and what their ball flight. That's going to give you certain advantages. But that's kind of really when we're talking about min-maxing and optimizing, for competitive play, which we don't know really what it looks like yet. Um, this is for if you're looking to just breeze through the challenge mode, you're looking to do well in game rooms, and you're looking to beat your friends. This is more for the competitive type of player who is looking to gain an edge somewhere because, again, we're only selecting for three variables. They all have the same stats, so you really can't go wrong. That was one of the cool things about this game. You can play they have all these characters. You can play whoever you like, and you're basically hitting it as far with the same amount of stuff as everybody else. Okay, so I've structured this in two ways. First is that the way that I'm going to go through the characters is I'm going to group them by their special mode because again, that's the meat and potatoes of what we're selecting for here. So all the characters that have same or very similar special modes, I'll sort of do all at once. So then we can even differentiate. So if you really like a specific special mode and that's sort of where you want to lean, you'll sort of be able to figure out, which character best represents that category. I'm also going to put timestamps in here, so if you just want to skip to, whatever your character and see where I put them on the list, you can do that. And then, obviously, with these tier list videos, you can just skip to the end and see where everything falls if you just kind of want to, you know, cut to the chase. The other way I've structured this is how that I've set up the tiers. So I think this is the best way to do it. For tiers of differentiation, I don't see five here. Again, this is just one guy's opinion at the end of the day, but I think there's some really strong characters that are like the best, the S tier characters that these characters give you the best advantage. There's some good characters that are fine, that are playable. Um, that are they optimal? Are they perfect? No, but are they solid? Absolutely. And then B is situational characters where they can be good based on certain circumstances, but are they just blanket good? No. And then C, unfortunately, is characters that just they got the bad dice roll. They have a terrible special mode. They have a fade or draw, and they have a penalty on their passive. Those characters, unfortunately, are pretty bad. And again, if you want to play them, you can. But in terms of competitive play, once the online mode comes out, if it's a situation where you can play any character, you'll definitely start to see a meta emerge where the stronger characters are taking down most of the spots on the leaderboard. Okay, so with all that out of the way, I think we can get started. The first group of characters I want to talk about are the people with the 5-ball putting special mode. So this special mode activates at the putter and it sends out 5 balls instead of one, which basically gives you a cup on either side of extra leeway to sink the shot. This is a decent sort of baseline ability, in my opinion. Is it like game warping? No. Is it helpful? Yes. Is it going to be useful on most courses and net you a stroke or two throughout the round? Probably. Um, so I think it's a good baseline special mode in terms of that. Sasha is going to be the first one we're going to do here, and Sasha is going to go right here as like a very good baseline character, in my opinion. Like I said, the special's decent. It's a sort of a good baseline special. Her passive is that she gets a bonus to perfect impact range with woods from the fairway, which is very useful. That's very helpful to be able to hit perfect impacts with a lot of your second shots and shots coming into greens on par fives and things like that. So that's a useful ability. She's got the right ball flight. She shoots a mid straight ball, which is what we're looking for. So very just sort of well-rounded character. Nothing like wow, nothing broken, but very well-rounded. Nothing bad either. So Sasha's for me is like a very like baseline character of like if you just want a decent solid character, Sasha's a good option. Silvia is the other one with this special mode with the 5 balls. And unfortunately, she's just a worse version of Sasha. There's a lot of characters in this game that are just because of the stats again that are sort of strictly worse versions than other people. And unfortunately, Silvia is one of those people. Silvia has, again, we have the same special mode, so that's a wash. We have the same ball flight with the straight mid, so that's a wash. But Silvia has a downside that she's poor in bunkers, and her upside is that she is good when putting topspin on a driver, which just gives you a control boost on the driver, and the bunker penalty affects your impact and your percentages, obviously when you're shooting out of the sand. So she's just a worse version of Sasha, in my opinion. And if you like the passive and you are somebody who maybe isn't a strong putter, and you find that that 5-ball passive extra useful, then just play Sasha. All right, the next group of characters I want to talk about are the characters with the passive that they get more distance based on how far behind the leader they are. And it applies to different clubs depending on the character. In my opinion, so this is what we call in sort of game design. This is what we would call a comeback mechanic, where it activates when you're behind. I am fundamentally against these. I don't want them. I think they're terrible. Because why am I behind? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want an ability that only works when I'm losing. Why am I losing? I want an ability that puts me ahead. So yeah, I don't know. In the World Tour where you're playing against maybe 8 people, like in a theoretical world where you're like in a tour against 8 other people, and like even if you're second or third, you're still getting some distance bonus on these clubs, throughout the whole round, maybe. But in terms of just like uh, playing a foursome out there, the idea of being behind to get use of your power just feels really terrible for me. So unfortunately, this is a very low ranking power mode, and I'm gonna put all these characters into the trash bin, unfortunately. So that would be let's just take a peek here. Who do we got in this? So that's gonna be Mizuki. You know, Mizuki. He's got his passive is like neutral, right? He doesn't get anything or lose anything. He's like unaffected. But he plays a draw and he has a terrible passive. So unfortunately, there's Mizuki for us. Sam, same thing. Same thing. We can't play folks that are that have this passive. It's just too bad. LJ, again, he's so hard to unlock, and you just get this passive that's not even that good. And Bloom. So everybody with that one goes in the trash bin. I'm sorry, but that ability just sucks. When you're looking at some of these S tier abilities, uh, yeah, no chance that they're comparable. You're getting some yardage when you're behind and losing. Well, I'm I'm chipping in every hole. So not a good passive in my opinion. And the fact that these characters don't have anything else to be able to make up for that, fortunately puts them in the bin. Okay, so the next group of characters I want to talk about are those with the power or the special mode that you can go through obstacles. This to me is a very situational special mode in that it works on certain courses where you're going to pretty much guarantee to get the mileage out of it. Silk Road, Silver Peaks, the more sort of gimmicky ones. But you can't just load this up and expect to go in and expect it to be useful every time. And if you don't know where you're playing, like if you just load up into a room and you don't know, then it's not going to always be good. So to me, this is a very situational one. And out of the folks that have this ability, I would say Pac-Man is the starting point here. Pac-Man has some interesting features going for him. He hits a straight ball, which we obviously need. He has a pretty good passive in that you get double perfect impact bonus, one on each side when you use power mode. And then the downside is that on your next shot you lose 5% of yardage, but you can negate that by just hitting another power mode. So if you just go power mode, you're guaranteed to hit two shots with a three wide perfect impact, which is pretty good. And then he also has these Pac-Man clubs, which are unique to him, which are pretty good as well. They give you power and control. So overall, I think if you're into the going through obstacles passive, and again, I've seen it, or special mode I should say, I've seen it be cool, and like you can go through a mountain and like you can make up shots with it, definitely. um but Pac-Man is the way to go. The other characters, Kazuma is bad in certain circumstances, so again, he just play Pac-Man. Stuart is bad in the so I think he's bad in the rain, he's bad in the daytime. Lynn is bad at tee shots. um and just play Pac-Man in that situation for those guys. So those are all the people that have the obstacles passive. Can be good. Is it my favorite? No, but Pac-Man's your best bet. All right, next I want to talk about the special mode that negates the effects of horizontal break on the putter. Um, this is a very powerful ability. There's just no way about it. This is just on especially the harder courses, bagpipe, whatever the new Crown Links is, Silver Peaks. You're going to get so much mileage being able to negate the horizontal break of the putt so that you only have to factor in the elevation. It's so good. And in match play, on these hard courses, you just throw the ball in the green and you're pretty much guaranteed a birdie. So this is a very strong ability. You get two of them. And I should mention too, I'm factoring how many you get as well. Like that's a factor. So you get two of these at base plus whatever your caddy feeds you, and yeah, super super strong ability. So we've got two characters that have this, Sophie and Jasmine. Sophie's passive, so they're both straight shooters, both straight mid, so no difference there. Sophie has an interesting passive where for the first 9 holes, it's like your Jack Nicklaus. She gets a buff on everything. She gets huge impact zones. Doesn't matter where she is. Everything's great. It's beautiful. And then when you go to the second 9, the back half of the round, whatever it is, depending on how long it is, she gets a distance bonus, a distance penalty, a control penalty, an impact penalty. So like the back half of her round is terrible. Jasmine, on the other hand, is all upside. Her ability makes it so that when you're putting for par, the hole just has a little bit of magnetism to it, a little bit extra magnetism, which is like, again, hopefully we're not putting for par. Hopefully we're putting for eagle and birdie. But in the cases on the difficult courses where we are going to have some par putts to keep the round going, um, it's nice to have, and it's not going to hurt anybody. There's no downside to Jasmine. So Jasmine to me is a strong character. She's like, if you're playing Jasmine, you're here to win. You're serious. You're gonna find a ton of use of that passive. No downside. Straight ball flight. Jasmine's amazing. Um, and then Sophie, like, she's not trash because the ability is just so good. You know, you have to put her in good, but like again, just play Jasmine. There's really no reason to play Sophie. If you like the and again, if you're a really strong putter, I could see you gravitating toward the other side of the abilities that we'll get to. But if putting maybe isn't the strongest part of your game, then man, these characters will just make your life so much easier. So those are the horizontal break negators. All right, next group I want to talk about is a group I'm not too fond of, and that's the folks that are good out of bad lies with the sand wedge. So this gives you a bonus to percentage and impact when you're in a terrible lie, usually out of the bunker, your ball's buried somewhere. Again, why is our ball buried somewhere? I don't want a bonus that only procs in a horrible situation. And with the control and everything, we're playing the easiest hot shots we've ever played. I've got a video about that later, but like, there's no need to be. Everybody's got S control, S impact. Like the stats are nuts, so you don't need to be good out of bad lies. It's not a big deal if you're in a bad lie. You'll be fine. So unfortunately, again, and I'll go through. Most of these people also fade or draw and have a bad thing. So like, there's just nobody in here that's playable in my opinion. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. Hate to say it. But we're going to toss a bunch of people in the bin here. So we're going to toss who are the. So we've got Suzuki's in here. Dino is in here. Aya is in here. Alex is in here. Garuda is in here. I'm so sad that he's in there, but he is. Is that everybody that's in there? Dino, Suzuki, Garuda, Alex, and Aya. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you're really trying to win games, you don't want to be playing those guys. All right, next up is going to be the negates the effects of wind group. Again, this is kind of a more of a niche situational ability. This isn't going to be useful every game, but if you know you're queuing into a game with a ton of wind, then yeah, it's going to be helpful for sure. Wind in this game is very severe, and so there's some tours that get pretty tough um, until you really figure out the wind in this game, which is just savage. Like it's just brutal wind. It can be tough. So being able to negate wind with your tee shot, pretty pretty useful in those situations. The problem is, it's like it's either feast or famine. It's either going to be completely useless or helpful. So it's going to be a situational one for me. Um, Max and Gangol. Let's take a look here. Max, what's Max passive here? Oh, that's right. He gets a bonus to par fives and then doesn't like or he gets a bonus to driving in general and gets a debuff to approach shots, and Garuda is bad in the rain. Now, I think Max has a better passive, but unfortunately he hits uh, a draw. So Garuda is going to be our situational option here. Um, Obviously, you don't want to play him in the rain. So again, if it's raining, probably not. Maybe you go with the max there. But if you want to go with the wind option, Gangol is probably a little bit better. These are in no particular order, by the way, in terms of like where you are within that tier. Okay, moving right along. Okay, this is a bit of a weird one. This is those that get the chip in bonus if they're shooting for par. for the most part, we don't want to be shooting for par. Par is not a good score in this game. This isn't a game where, this isn't the U.S. Open. A bunch of pars isn't going to be good. A bunch of pars is going to lose us most of our games. So we don't want to be shooting for par. So the ability is just, it starts off terrible. Why are we shooting for par? Are there times where you're shooting for par and it's going to be helpful and you're like, oh, sweet, I'm still in it? Sure. But there's other abilities that don't have that attachment placed on it. So this is a shit tier ability for me. Not very good, and all of the characters that have it are unfortunately going right into the bin. And that is Erica, Lonnie, and Allie. Yep, I think we're on pace here. Yep. Okay, so yeah, that's that ability. Again, all these characters, it really doesn't matter. None of them has any sort of passive that could outweigh that. That could outweigh that crappy ability. So unfortunately, again, the special moments are so important. They're a giant part of that three-piece pie. So if you have a bad special mode, it's going to be hard to be a good character. Okay, this last group of characters is very interesting, and it's almost two groups in one. These are the characters that have an ability where the ball flies toward the pin or shoots towards the hole or soars toward the flag. And the language they use is important because there's a lot of different things going on here. So let me talk about the guys, the folks that shoot towards the hole. That's kind of the wording. And the difference is here is it activates on a longer club. It activates on a wood or a hybrid or a fairway club, not a wedge, which is the second group, which we'll get in later. Okay, so this is Izzak, Nick, Sonia, and Ekaterina. Ekaterina is a little bit of an exception here because she uses this procs on the driver for her. So this is like the ability if you want to try to drive par fours. That's a really good ability. But overall, this ability isn't as strong, in my opinion, as the flies toward the pin, homing shots, rising shots abilities that I'll get to in a second. So they're still pretty decent, and there's some straight hitters here. So like I would say again, oops, that's not the right thing. So again, Izzak, is he going to be your guy? No, because he hits a draw or a fade or whatever. Sonia, not too bad. Not too bad. Ekaterina, not too bad. Her passive isn't great in that she gets like is it -5% in the fairway or in the daytime? I don't know, but it's not great. Her passive isn't great. But again, this ability is pretty useful in that you are sending the ball sort of flying towards the hole. Maybe for her, because of hers is driver, she can be situational. Um, Nick again, he plays that. I think he plays a cut or whatever, but he can't go because he's got something else. So that's how I would say Sonia and Ekaterina. Sonia's kind of like the generic one. She has a mid ball flight. Her passive is, yeah, so she doesn't play well in the evening. So again, she does have a negative associated with her there. Um, so I would kind of put her there. You could maybe put an argument for her there, but I'm gonna go with Ekaterina being situational. You would have to sort of know whether the course you're playing is going to afford you a lot of opportunities to drive par fours. If it is, then she's probably really good. If not, are you going to get the use out of it? I don't know. Whereas Sonia's, you're probably going to have some approach shots with a hybrid at some point in the round. All right, last but not least, we have these characters that activate their ability when they're within 60 yards of the hole. Now, they're all a little bit different. Some of them proc rising shots, some of them proc homing shots, and it's weird that until you have those unlocked, it won't work. So even if you're a level 8 Gloria, if you have not unlocked a homing shot, it won't do anything. It'll just like hit the flag and bounce back, and you'll be like, okay. So the downside of these is you have to be level 20 loyalty with the rising shots and the homing shots and all the different special shots unlocked so that they can actually proc. But then once you do, then you're kind of laughing. these are these are the most broken abilities in the game, in my opinion. These are like even more strong than the negates the effect of horizontal putting, because like it doesn't matter where you play, you're going to want a chip in, at some point. Maybe not on the super easy courses, but even then with wind, you're probably going to find yourself with a chip from somewhere. And you can game these to be, very, very accurate. They are impact dependent, so they're not 100%, but they are most of the time. So let me talk about the rising shot ones, and then I'll talk about the homing shot ones. So the rising shot ones are Yuna, Rose, and Lilith. And they basically just want to kind of throw the ball at the flag, and it'll just hit it and go in. Works very repeatably. Lilith has a bad downside. I can't remember what it is, and I don't have her unlocked, but she does have a passive that has um, a curse on it, whereas Rose and Yuna do not. Um, Yuna with this ability is super. Now this ability is, you only get one of them, so that is the other thing to consider. Is I think it is overall a better ability than the negate the effects of horizontal break, but you do get two horizontal break negates versus one of these, so you do have to factor that in. Yuna's passive is, um, she's bad from bare lies, which is never like that's never going to come up. That's not going to come up very often. That's gonna happen like once. You shouldn't be in a spot like that anyway, but like you're never gonna pay the penalty for that. And then she's good on approach shots, so you get a bonus to impact and everything when you're approaching, which is great. So really great passive, straight ball flight, and one of the strongest abilities in the game. So Yuna definitely S tier in my opinion. Um, I'm gonna put Rose as good. I just don't think she's quite as strong as Yuna. She's got a high ball flight, which is interesting. Like there are courses that give you a couple interesting looks at shots if you have a high ball flight, but overall it doesn't give you a ton of advantage. It's kind of neutral. The wind in this game is really bad, so it forces you to sort of play the wind a little more. But most of the time in the wind, you're trying to keep the ball down. So there is that. And then her ability is if you make a birdie, she gets an advantage to her approach shot. What is it here? Yeah, she gets a bonus to her approach if you score a birdie or better. And so again, on a competitive round on most courses, there's going to be a lot of birdies or better for you, hopefully. So especially if you have this ability where you're chipping in. So Rose, you could argue Rose is an S tier character. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm gonna put her right at the tippy top, even though I said they don't matter. But yeah, Rose is a good character, um, and that ability is very strong. Now, the best special mode ability in the game is this homing shot ability, where you literally just put the ball on the green and it homes towards the hole, which is pretty crazy. And both Cougar and Gloria have this ability. Um, Gloria does have a downfall, and then she's bad in the bunkers, and she doesn't like spin applied to her driver or something like that. I believe is part of her passive as well. But you can kind of get through that with how insane your stats are. So the fact that you're bad in bunkers doesn't, it should be bad, but it really isn't. This ability is gonna just give you so many free strokes over the course of a round that it's mind blowing. And I believe she gets two. Is it am I trolling? Let me just. Yeah, she starts with two of these things. So really, really, really strong. Probably there's definitely an argument that she's the best character in the game. This is my S tier. This is my top three. I think Cougar, unfortunately, he's still so good because of the ability, but you have to play a straight ball on him. So he's somewhere in here. I don't know. Just play Gloria, honestly. Just play Gloria. But the ability is so strong. Just throwing the ball in the green and having it home towards the pin. And it doesn't always go in, but it goes in most of the time. Whereas like Yuna, you have to kind of throw the ball at the pin. and the other thing with like this, the abilities that I talked about with Sonia and Nick and the people that shoot it in from a distance, it misses way more, and when it misses, it's bad. Like it just misses the flag or whatever, and it shoots off, and now it's not just, oh, now you have a 7 foot putt, like when Gloria's ability misses, you're on the edge of the cup, or you're right there. So even if it doesn't hit, still improves your position by a lot. Whereas like if one of these other zooms towards the cup from a distance, abilities procs, if it misses, it could go way off. So that's another reason why the people that are using that ability with a pitching wedge and a gap wedge from 60 yards is a much better ability. So that's going to do it. That is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Again, this is just my opinion. There's no such thing as a perfect tier list. This is my experience. It could change when rank comes out. Who knows? But again, if you're looking to breeze through the challenge mode, really like win those match plays super quick, three holes, it's over. Um, and do well in game rooms, and you're playing in a group of friends that's serious and everybody's trying to win. I would highly recommend one of these three characters. They're very strong. They have their ability is either so broken that it doesn't matter what their other stuff is, or they're just all round solid characters. And you should do pretty well with those. But again, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed something or got something way off, or you disagree with something. I think I'm pretty close here. I don't think there's anything that's too controversial, but we'll see. In terms of the caddies, real quick, obviously this is just pure fun. Rune is my favorite caddy, then Hannah, then Arcana, then Sebastian, and then these three. This guy, I don't know. I don't know if he annoys me or not. I haven't made up my mind on him yet, but I do not like London Hugh, that's for sure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the course.